Here we are for another live Q&A. We're going to answer your questions. Let me know whatever is on your mind. I'm going to go through, like we usually do on these, all the current stuff that's going on, updates, and so forth. So first of all, to get down to it, the seventh change on Google Ads on the 17th for the bidding. I promised that I would go over first thing on this particular live stream what is going on with that. So the skinny on that is it's a pretty much a big nothing burger. I know for some there's some rumblings online that Google's people are seeing the performance of their ads getting affected by this. I'm not noticing it with our clients. It's business as usual. I thought that this would pretty much not be an issue if your targets were set correctly. If your targets are not set correctly, you should be saying, "Oh shit, stop this live stream right now and go check all your campaigns," because they could be performing significantly different than what they did. Presumably, if your targets are significantly different than what the actual results that you're getting, would be the time where I would want to definitely double check and put a sanity check on what you're doing. Beyond this, so, in this unofficial recession, a lot of businesses have been affected by, their sales are being affected. So if you are going through some rough times, hard times, it's not just you. However, this is the time to step it up in terms of your advertising game. Whereas most defeatist people are just going to say, "Oh, nothing works. I'm just done. I'm gonna go sit on a beach somewhere until this is, everything that's going on, causing all this uncertainty is over with." And the reality is, there's still buyers in your market. It's just going to take more than it did before in order to win them over. Uh, Ultimately, whereas everybody was fighting over a big pool of people, now there's the same amount of competitors fighting over a smaller pool of people. So it's going to take more effort, and the effort that it took before isn't going to be the effort that it takes now to out compete your competition. So that's the name of the game, particularly with Google Ads. Right now, I mean, there's a lot of people dropping out. So if you understand how to do Google Ads really well, you could do really well with it, and just take over. Versus on other channels where you're doing push type advertising, it's not as the same. The pool's shrinking and it's actually getting a little bit harder. Whereas on Google search, it's actually getting easier, given that there's all the competition's dropping out. Most people use Google Ads as a filler for customers that they need to get to keep their staff, operations busy, whatever, and they just stop when the revenue's down, not understanding the correlation between what they're doing and revenue in the door. And so they pull that out, and anybody who actually does it right, which is where they track their results, they take it seriously, they're just cleaning it up right now, including with our clients, not to boast or anything like that. So something to consider as well. And for that matter, that just as a reverberation of what I've said multiple times on these live streams recently is click fraud is just exploding. You got LLM agents on the web scraping content, and there's stick growth on the amount of bots slash agents on the internet that will also click through ads. You should definitely look into seeing how much of this you have, ideally using a software that will give you an honest read on it, and then actually be able to block it efficiently, because seeing it is one thing, blocking it is another, and training your ad systems to not optimize for it is another. So we've created a commercial solution for this, fraudbouncer.com. You can see for free how much of it you have. The average account has anywhere between 10 and 90% of their traffic is click fraud, regardless of what platform you're on, of which our software will allow you to see how much you have, regardless of what platform you're on, Google, Facebook, whatever you're on. So just a quick plug for that, but that really is legitimate need that not just anybody, any random person may need, but everybody watching this needs to have, given that click fraud is exploding right now, and any working solutions outside of our product is at minimum several grand a month. $5,000-$10,000 a month will get you a really good enterprise solution. Most businesses don't or can't want to pay for that, particularly right now. And so we're going to have a very inexpensive solution that's in line with what all businesses can afford, and will future future proof your business from this type of issue that's going to be getting worse and worse and worse here, especially in the near future. So something else to consider as well. That all said, let's see if we have any comments here. Oh, Carousel, hey, welcome. I think we'll try to get right into it here if we can. So the best day of the week is here once again with the best Q&A on YouTube. Thank you. Why are people dropping out from Google Ads? So there's a general this is funny, because just like with click fraud, people assume, oh, well, if there's click fraud, wouldn't Google block it? Well, Google obviously also wants to make money, and when they're having a revenue drop from an unofficial recession going on, they're going to try to pad their numbers, and it's just too convenient to let bots slip through that they didn't let slip through before, which is why our click fraud software is going to be so needed and is so valuable right now. But ultimately, people think, well, if Google Ads was working, why are they just going to stop? And again, it's real. I can tell you from doing this for over a decade, the way that most people evaluate marketing is they do marketing and then they see if the revenue goes up. They don't track anything on an individualized level. So when the revenue drops, they just drop their ad budget to coincide with it, which isn't an overall bad idea as a whole. Like, hey, if my revenues drop 10%, I should just drop my ad budget 10%. But at the same time, that's stupid, because they're not effectively even understanding where they should just drop their budget at. They just drop everything. And because Google Ads is so damn expensive nowadays, they just drop that first, of which not often understanding that's where most of their actual revenue is coming from. They just don't know it because they haven't ever taken it seriously, haven't tracked it seriously, and so forth, of which, because tracking is such a problem, I'm also coming out with my own tool that will automate all revenue tracking for businesses that are doing lead generation as well. I'm about ready to release this as a beta product for you guys to use for free. That's going to connect to your accounting systems and do this kind of tabulation. And so you're forced to know how much money it is making for you. So you're not having to do this again. But again, people are, for one, they don't take things seriously. They don't track it seriously. Second, they have a knee-jerk reaction to everything. When revenue's down, they say, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then they just right away start cutting stuff. and if it's immediate gratification. Ooh, it feels so good to cut. Ah, ah. Then they get a instant dopamine hit from cutting something, and it's they want that so bad that they're just not going to delay the dopamine hit that they're going to get from that to figure out if whether or not what they're cutting is actually going to cut their revenue more than what they're cutting, which is what they ought to do, but they don't do it. They just jump the gun and they go for it right away. So you can take advantage of all these dummies doing this, for lack of better words, and understand that if you stick it out and then if there were 10 people advertising in your niche market and now there's 3 because of all the cutting that people are doing, obviously the pool of people could be cut 70%, but more than likely it's not. What we're seeing in markets is their competition on the ads is going to cut in half, but the demand might have only been down 10 or 20% in terms of the pool of people that are available to get. At least in B2C markets. B2B is a little bit different, but even there. And so in other words, it's not proportional. Business owners will cut farther and faster and quicker than consumers are going to cut back on their purchases. In most markets. So therefore, if you are there, obviously the bids are going to come down. Google is going to have to charge less per click, and you're going to get customers at a discount and more of them. So ultimately, all I'm saying is you don't have to throw your money away. This is not what this is about. It's about properly measuring what you've got and then seeing what you got before you cut. Because more than likely, all the cutting of all the dumb money getting cut, this is going to free up your campaigns to really shine. That's what we're seeing. Is demand gen still king of the Google ads for affiliates? So I would say so. I mean, this is what I've seen other affiliates that I know are saying and doing currently because it's an underserved channel still. JZA. Hey, Corey, what types of forms convert best for high intent services? No need to warm up. Click to a contact page, embedded forms, or step forms with progress bars. Just thinking it over. So I know I made a video recently about forms with progress bars. Those really, really work well. I don't care what you have. If the consumer is educated, not educated, warmed up, not warmed up, this works beautifully in all those situations. It's just obviously more logistics to put together, but just like I was talking about before, whereas the average person's so damn lazy and you could tell them how to make money. You could say there was $1 million across the street in a suitcase, and half these dumbasses would say, but I really have to walk that far. They're just not going to do it. So ultimately, all you basically have to do is just work a little bit harder than your competition. You basically get all the money. Yes, that takes work and it's not instant gratification, but this is how the millions are made. And so creating a contact form with a beautiful progress bar and getting a little fun, making it a little fun, like if it's a shipping company, put a little airplane on the progress bar. It's an engagement device. It makes it look fun and inviting and fun to, almost like a little mini game that you're filling out the form at that point in time. So, and it looks more credible. Like, hey, they actually took the time to do this like this, so it must be a legit service. That's the other part of it. So that almost always wins if you actually do it right in terms of the visual appeal of it, the professionalism of it, and so forth. JZA, is there a report or software that'll tell you how much people are dropping off? Well, no, yes. Okay. It's funny because I've made some software, videos about tracking software and how they're stupid because ultimately you can do all that stuff with Google Analytics for free. They basically capitalize on the ignorance of the consumer not knowing that you can use Google Analytics for basically all this type of tracking activity. It's just maybe not quite as easy to set up. So therefore, because that does provide value to the consumer, but you're going to pay $200-300 a month forever because you didn't want to spend the extra time to know how to set up GA4. That doesn't make any sense, given that you could hire somebody for 5 hours to set up some custom reports and whatnot in GA4 and be done with it. So GA4 will literally do almost everything you could possibly think of in terms of tracking each step, knowing where the drop off is, and creating a funnel inside the platform. You could literally get a visualization of how many people get to each step within GA4 as such. And not only that, but when you pair that with Hotjar, which will do a video recording of the whole visitor process, you can actually physically see what they click on, what they don't click on, where they abandon, where they're getting confused. That's also highly, highly valuable data. And if on a multi-step form like we were just talking about, that's absolutely key to do that. You want to know how they're mousing around, where they're clicking, how they're clicking to really identify where the friction points are. And then, because obviously, if you see that there's a 20% drop off between step 2 and step 3, but you don't have any telemetry data that tell you what the hell is going on between step 2 and step 3, then unless you're highly experienced and know what you're looking for, you're dead in the water, which is why you use Hotjar to figure out what they're clicking on and then get some clues as to what you need to iron out to make that particular step, the conversion rate from one step to the other step underneath it, higher. Caruso, what is your thoughts on the current state of the stock market? So I think I've certainly talked about this, and I know I have talked about this, I should say, in some earlier live streams. So everything is, and this is no secret, right? Everything is really predicated around just a small pool or selection of stocks that are revolving around AI. If we didn't have AI boosting everything right now, I mean, the economy would be like Great Depression level activity. This is carrying everything right now. If it weren't for that, it would be completely obvious to everybody we're screwed, you know. But in addition to this, you can actually go ahead and price the stock market in gold, and you'll see the stock market's going down, not up. Which is why everybody, when they say, look, the economy's fine because the stock market's going up. Yeah, it's going up in nominal terms, but is it going up in actual real terms? Because money, paper money, is not backed by anything, and you can print as much as you want. So, yeah, you can make the economy look great by printing out 3 times the amount of currency that exists to pump the stock market up, but does that actually create actual economic activity? No, it does not. So this is something you got to be cognizant of when you try to make decisions as to what you're going to do in your business, your investments, and so forth. So what does all that mean at the end of the day? Do you invest? Do you not invest? If you're curious about this, personally, I would not. I wouldn't be doing it. I would be invested in real assets because I feel like there's going to be something really going to happen in terms of the currency itself. It's getting devalued a lot, and if you're, I'm going to park my money in real assets. So traditionally, you could, when you buy stocks, that's what you're doing, right? But I'm going to do it in stocks that are stable, not, in other words, chasing AI hype. As much as that looks great, it's gonna look great until it's not. Just like the dot-com era, right? You could have invested in these dot-com stocks, and then on paper, you're great for a few years, and then you're done. So unless you're really into gambling, I wouldn't do that. Take the, Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett approach, where you're looking at companies that have high EBITDA, and investing in them is probably the best case right now that have a durable competitive advantage. And given the, what is going on right now, they're going to be the ones that you're going to be stable in for the next 6 months to a year. Lisa, I have a proven YouTube campaign running with really great and proven scripts/ideas running on $150 a day budget, been getting some sales but inconsistent. How long should I wait for optimization? Yeah, YouTube campaigns will, if you're going to have a winner, you're going to have some traction within a month, typically, if you've got a winning ad. And you'll know you have a winning ad because your click-through rates will be fairly high. We're talking like 1% or higher click-through rate. So, and a cost per click of, a couple bucks versus like if you have a bad ad, it'll be like 30 bucks a click. You got to just pull out then. So if you at least got this and you're getting any kind of leads or traction at all in the first 30 days, you pretty much are going to have something decent. The first month might only get you one lead, and then the second month might get you 5 or 3, and then the next month after that it'll be 10, 15, and that's kind of how it goes. So, with the upside being, unlike with Google search ads, the cost per click's astronomically high. The benefit of going through the hassle of learning how to do a video ad that works is your cost per click's $2. So you could get all this going in the background with a tiny budget like $10 a day and get the whole engine running just from that, which is why I love it. But ultimately with that, number one, you got to have your tracking set up right. You got to have qualified leads tracked because you're going to have lots of bots clicking through your ads. You got to have sales tracked. That's got to feed back into your ad account if you expect anything significant to happen. Then on top of that, once you have that in place, you need to wait a good 90 days for a decent amount of data and training of the system can happen. Also, on top of that, 1000%, you're going to want to use our click fraud software solution to mitigate the bots clicking through because they do click through YouTube ads just as much as a search ad or anything else. So go to fraudbouncer.com, implement that on top of the tracking, because the tracking and the software that we have work together in conjunction with one another to train the system on what's working. Through process elimination, you'll get to the results ideally within 90 days. JZA. My issue with a progress bar, if you just need basic info or high intent niches, why make it more complicated? Now, okay, so I appreciate the pushback here because I'd like to clarify and say that if you're literally talking about a broken toilet here, yes, you're going to annoy me by asking me to fill out too much information. It's too much. I'm never going to care to fill out anything more than name, email, phone number. So you don't need that. But the more complicated the sales process and the more expensive whatever you're selling is, the more this stuff pays. So when you say high intent niches, I don't know exactly what you mean by that. The better way to phrase it would be any niche where people already know what they want quickly and they're not overthinking it. So, broken toilet repair, broken AC, stuff like this, as opposed to, medical illustration design services. You know, on that, the multi-step form is going to work much better. So, hopefully that kind of puts better context around it. So it's not an absolute, but and mainly because because this is where the expertise of a real expert is going to come in handy versus your average Joe. An average Joe might be able to put together an okay landing page that gets 10% conversion rate. An expert's going to get 30% conversion rate because they get all and know all the tricks. Ultimately, the experienced person's going to understand the delicate dance where you have to know where most people are. You're never going to be able to cater to everybody. Where most people are and the level of engagement and information that they need. If you try to tell people about every different technique of way you have to unclog a freaking toilet and how you're the best toilet unclogger, you can wrangle turds with the best of them, then you're going to annoy the crap out of them. They're going to leave. However, for the medical illustration company, if you start to say like, "Oh, we pride ourselves on quality, hire us," they're going to be like, "Okay, this was made by AI. I'm not hiring them." Right? So this is where there's a very fine line. You start to tip over one way or versus the other, you start to lose conversions. You've got to understand, ideally through experience or trial and error, to figure out where this point is. And of which, on top of this, you got to be able to understand when you need to provide extra information to part of the market when it's needed. So in other words, catering to the people who just want an answer right away, but also having deep information available for the people who want it, but also not making it so distracting to the people who only want a simple answer, not getting distracted by it, but also the people that want more information, it's not hidden away too much to where they can't find it. This is all stuff that you learn when you make websites and have to be on the behind the gun making stuff convert. Microsoft Clarity can do the same thing for free perusal. Yeah, I mean, essentially, I agree. I don't like it personally myself. That's just my opinion, but you are 100% right. Lisa, how profitable can YouTube ads be? Do you prefer YouTube or search ads? So I typically run both for most of our clients. We're talking like 80% of our clients now. Why? Because nobody wants to do YouTube ads. They just want to throw up an ad in 2 seconds and get results. And a YouTube ad done right, or in the way that it will actually work, takes long-term planning. You got to put together a script and refine and refine and refine just the script. Then you got to have a good voiceover. Then you got to have a good video production. Then you got to have good editing. And people don't have the patience for this shit anymore. So if I enter a niche and I'm going to do all this, I'm probably going to be the only one in the entire niche who's done the work to put together a half decent YouTube ad that's not some bullshit like, we are the best plumbing services in Dallas, hire us. Nobody gives a fuck. You're wasting your time. But this is what companies want because they think it should be cheap. And, it's one of those, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. They're just going to put together some bullshit that takes 2 seconds because that's all the client's going to pay for. And then nothing gets done. The consumer gets annoyed, nothing happens. So if you actually give a damn about what you're doing and hire somebody who knows what the hell they're doing to make a video ad, it crushes it. Because nobody else is doing anything like that or at all in that space, or they'll try it a little bit. It doesn't work right away because the ad sucks and they don't do it anymore. And so you're probably going to have it all to yourself. And because of this, you could easily pay $5, $10, $15 a click on Google search, but pay $1 a click via YouTube ads because you actually spent the time and you used your full ass, not a half or a quarter of your ass, to put together the video ad, and not expecting AI to just do it all and put no thought into it and so forth. If you do that, it will usually be better than even the search ads, which people want this result. They just don't want to do the effort necessary to get the result. Lisa, how often do you find success in video ads once you implement the core strategies for YouTube? More than half of the time it'll be profitable. And then when I say profitable, I mean profitable on paper. We see the click through, the conversion, all of it. If you go further than this and you do a conversion lift study, it's more than that. It's more like 80, 90%. Why? Because it's so inexpensive. Ultimately, it costs about a penny for somebody to see a video ad, of which you can target people that are in market for your product or service. How can you not, communicate with somebody who's going to be buying your product or service in the next 30 days and not get at least a small chunk of those people to buy? And when you're only spending like $300 to get in front of all of them, not at least get one customer out of it. I mean, you have to really, really be trying hard to not do what you need to do to make this ultimately work. So people just assume this doesn't work. I made a video about this I'm going to be posting. People assume that YouTube ads don't work because they see a bunch of scam products on YouTube and they're like, oh, this doesn't work because that's all you see there. No, small business owners are just cheap as hell. They don't want to hire somebody to do the YouTube ad right. And then as a result of this, all that gets advertised is bullshit that doesn't work. And then it just appears as if nothing works. If you want to see some examples of working YouTube ads, reach out to me in my Discord group and I'll show you some. But bottom line is, it's not that hard to put together a good ad. You just can't do it in 5 seconds and expect it to work. I've been between $2 to $3 CPC on the YouTube campaign. However, my tracking is kind of horrible and I have been getting some sales. It's from my online store. So there you go. Guys, if you want a antidote or case study as to whether this can work or not, there you go. And it will work 10 times better if you just get the tracking set up right and you set up the click fraud monitoring software to make that even supported. So you're on the right track. If you see any signs of life in it, like I said, you're on the right track. You're gonna make a mint running this long term. I promise you that. Carousel, speaking of toilets, what are your thoughts on bidets? Fantastic. I slowly see the trend of I do use one, by the way, and, I slowly see the trend of people figuring this out. This is almost like the slow realization of healthy eating, like, starting in the early 2010s, people are starting to catch on that you can't just eat whatever you want with 10,000 ingredients in it and be healthy. Whereas in the 90s when I grew up, like, nobody was thinking about this, and it just eventually, the truth was too obvious that it wasn't ignored anymore. So, I see the same thing with this concept. People are gonna someday wake up and realize en masse that pushing shit around on your ass with paper, wadded up paper, is, like, not ideal. So, I don't know, what I was thinking for the first almost 40 years of my life doing it that way, but I mean, on surface level, it seems absurd if you've never tried this, but, it's much cleaner and it's free, and you never have to worry about buying TP again, so why the hell not? I promise you, if you try it, I challenge you. Spend 90 days using a bidet. I guarantee you're never gonna use toilet paper again. Guaranteed. It's all just, and I watched it, by the way, just a side note here. I watched a video actually yesterday about how neuroplasticity and how when you do things and you repeat certain actions, it actually creates a new neural pathway in your brain. That's, basically your nerve cells become myelated at a higher level, and that reinforces the pathway. And the more times you repeat something, the easier things get because that pathway becomes more myelated. Ultimately, when you're proposed with a new idea, it seems almost impossible in comparison to something that you've done a million times already. A lot of because of this concept. And so really, we just are held back in life mostly by the fact that things seem unfamiliar. If you actually legitimately gave everything a try properly, you would be doing things entirely different in your life. You're just very resistant to new ideas because of what I just said there, which is why I say if you actually did it for 90 days, you wouldn't do it the other way anymore. It's just, the culture, so to say. Lisa, any past experience in the fashion niche? Absolutely. Quite a bit, actually. So I see a lot of people trying to sell clothing. For the most part, if you're going to make that work online, you got to have a brand. If you're not going to create a brand, forget it. It's too competitive, it's too expensive, and the money is in developing the brand. That is, you run an online campaign, you break even on it, and then you use your foothold to find brick and mortar stores to push your stuff. And then that in turn makes the online better, of which then you find more brick and mortar, and then you do it on a dual front like this. Otherwise, you're just going to struggle. The ones that I've seen succeed and are successful are doing this. Why? Because people are not willing to pay premium prices for non-branded shit. They'd rather just go on, Amazon or whatever to buy that kind of crap for rock bottom prices. And so therefore you're just never going to succeed. Whereas a branded company can sell it at a 10,000% markup because they're a brand. So can you survive until you have the branded status? That's really the question. And most people are too underfunded to do it to begin with. And, but it's insanely profitable once you reach the other side. Right? Just look at the luxury companies, how profitable and successful they are. Question is, can you get it started? Carousel, have you switched over to using Claude Code to rip and optimize landing pages, or are you still using Unbounce? So I use Claude Code for coding purposes, but I don't use it for landing page purposes. And if we do rip something, I use a tool called HT Track. It's been around a long time. This rips HTML code really easily and, pixel for pixel. So I don't use Claude for this. Maybe I'm missing something with Claude. It could make this easier. But usually most landing pages suck, and we're not going to copy them pixel for pixel like this. I copy this stuff like if we have a client who needs to copy something from one place to another, we don't have access to the source files or something like this, we'll use that. But for the most part, most landing pages suck. So you have to be really careful just copying stuff verbatim like this. You could say, well, what they're big. Why do they use it then? Well, they are big and using that because they're big. Just because they're big doesn't mean they're not cheap as well, and aren't just getting most of their money through referrals, and their ads don't actually make any money. So, and we've been through this many times on this channel before. So you got to have some experience to know whether what you're copying is worthy of copying or not. And what I'll do is take ideas from certain pages, and then we'll amalgamate the best parts of all these pages into a new page via Unbounce is usually our process. Carousel, if you have to start an e-com brand, what niche would you go into? So when you say brand, are you saying a brand that could resell branded items from like, like if I wanted to start a shoe store selling Nike and Adidas and this, or an e-commerce store that sells an in-house unique brand that is nobody else sells our product line, it's our brand. So it's the e-commerce site is branded and therefore also the products are branded with the same brand. By the way, if you're going to do e-commerce, that's the way that I would recommend you go. If you try reselling stuff, at first it's going to seem better and easier because you don't have to work nearly as hard to sell a pair of Nike shoes because people already know what that is and they trust that. The problem though with that is so can everybody. That everybody can do that business model easily with no effort, practically speaking, and it's a race to the bottom. Not to say it can't be profitable, but you better have a bunch of money to be able to do super scale to make that work. My opinion is it's much better and feasible to start your own brand. So you could sell your own brand of, let's say, bug spray on a site about defeating bugs. And at least with that, the reason why that works so well is because once you pay to get somebody to your site and they're like, I don't know, I'm going to wait, think about it, or, oh, I'm going to wait till Friday till I get paid to buy this. When they go back to Google and type in XYZ bug spray, they're not going to find it sold anywhere else. They have to buy it from me, which means my sales funnel is a lot more efficient than if I sell the Nike shoes. If I don't get the shoe sale right then and there, it was all for nothing. Not to mention, it's too easy to go to Google or ChatGPT and say, hey, we're on the internet. Can I find this slightly cheaper? And then just buy it there. So I don't recommend doing that. So, but to answer your original question, like what kind of e-commerce brand, I'm gonna sell some obscure part for, machinery or equipment or something like this. Why? Because almost all the products like that, nobody wants to go ahead and do good sales support for that. So if you like wanted to buy a replacement PLC controller board for a bottling plant equipment, when somebody comes to your site and calls and they get to talk to a knowledgeable salesperson, you've pretty much got the sale. Versus if you're selling the bug spray product, there's like 20, 30 other products that they could potentially buy, and you're going to have to work damn hard to convince them to do it. Versus in the other scenario, I could just get them to call me, and once I got them on the phone, I've got them. I know that it's kind of hard to understand, but I've done this a long, long time. The people that are most successful at our firm in terms of advertising clients that we have is all people that have their own branded products. Some people do pretty well with reselling branded products that it's not their brand, but usually it's related to working extra hard on the marketing front to be very, very diligent about what they're doing and getting to where the heart of where it is. So on the reselling the PLC controllers, you make sure that unless they're typing in the exact part number for that exact PLC controller, you don't show up. And that's a very profitable model to do if you can put the time and effort in to do it. So you either go that route or you do the branded product route. For me, I'm going to do the branded product route because it creates a competitive moat around my business long term. With the other route, somebody can easily just rip off your whole website using Claude, and you're always open to that versus the branded product route. Good luck competing with me with the brand that I created and all the reviews that I got and all the sales videos that I got once it's finally up and done. So short term, the PLC example is better because it's more turnkey right away, but leaves you open to competition. The other side of it is it's harder to get going because you have to put all the sales material together yourself. But once you finally have it, you've got a really profitable, sellable asset. JZA, about to start ads for an apostillate services. I'm thinking of doing a campaign for people outside of the US. Any pointers about the international market? I will have a WhatsApp contact button. So we literally have a client who does this exact thing. So I can't give you our strategy because this is literally you are our competition. So if you competition, so I don't know what to tell you other than I hope you lose. um Realistically, there's you know it, okay, I always welcome competition because this is good for the market, right? At the end of the day, who wins this game is going to be the person with the better monetization strategy on their website. How can you make the buying process streamlined for the user so that you capture every bit of value from every click? Because I can optimize the ads a bunch, but if I don't have that completely locked down, I'm not going to win. So can you put a better site together than our competition? That's going to be the real question. But yeah, that's all I'll say about that. JZA, you can't just have poopy pants and thinking your butt is clean. Yeah, I don't. At least I don't know why people just. I guess they're like have a Zen state. Like if I pretend like it's not there, it's not there. Speaking of bidets, what are your thoughts on the colonoscopy? I have no idea about that. It seemed kind of like woo-woo, fringe, like it doesn't really do anything. For me, it doesn't make sense because why would you need to do that? People survive millions of years without that. Why would you suddenly need that to be healthy? I think and expect it's just like a crutch. Like until your diet's completely cleaned up, you have no business doing that. And if you do have your diet cleaned up, you're not going to need it. So that's my take on it. Please keep in mind that toilets have not been around very long. Yeah, like 100 years since Sir Thomas Crapper invented it. Especially, what's really great is the Japanese ones where the water is like all heated and everything, and then it'll blow dry your ass afterwards. That's just like, being treated like a king. You used to sell them, huh? And at an affiliate blog getting 12% conversion on Amazon affiliate. Yeah, I mean, that would be a great niche to be in right now because you're going to catch the huge wave of people switching over that's coming. Like I said, guys, this is like ridiculously easy to make money in today's environment with how lazy people are. If you set up an e-commerce site and you just know your product and you make good content and you answer the phone and you answer questions, you like win by default because everybody else wants to be like, can't we just have a dumbass answering the phone? Can't we just have the manufacturer's content and just paste it on the website? Yeah, you can. It doesn't mean it's going to make your advertising get a return on investment. Lisa, so what is the core to-do list when it comes to having successful YouTube ads? I want to have a checklist when it comes to YouTube because the scalability when you crack it is insane. Absolutely. I'm glad that you say it because, honestly, getting tired of everybody pretending the only thing that people can do that works is what everybody else is doing, which is that's the absolute opposite loser approach that you want to take as an advertiser. But to answer your question specifically, literally just go to my channel homepage in the search bar and type in YouTube and just start watching all the videos. I don't have a clean checklist for you, but at the same time, a lot of this stuff isn't going to be taught to you in 2 seconds either. You need to just watch hours of my content on it. But once you're done, you're going to know basically everything you need to know to crush it. So I guarantee you that. To be clear, the blog was selling kitchen and bath products, not just bidets. At the end of the day, you know, but to extend what I say, and I say this, have said this many times, if all you're going to do is try to have an e-commerce website with minimal content efforts and not answering the phone and just want to sit on a beach somewhere while products get shipped out for you automatically, good luck. Everybody wants that. You gotta, I would, so to answer your question about the niche, I mean, I would do something that you're an expert in. How well would this YouTube channel work if I was a 1-year beginner in PPC? It's not going to work. People don't value and buy from people who don't add value to the market. And if you're not the only one selling the bidets, what is your value to the market? Your value to the market is you have more product knowledge than the competition. That's your value. Otherwise, you have no value. You don't deserve to exist. You want to make money without doing anything different? Well, good luck. 0 day. Does Google use secondary goals like add to cart for purchase optimization? I made a video about this, how absolutely they do. Google's even came out and admitted this recently that they do use the secondary goal data. Now, from what I can tell, it's about a third. So they will use about 1/3 of their decision making on the secondary goal data and 2/3 on the primary. But, this isn't a hard or fast rule. So with that, you have to take your secondary goals seriously. Not to say if they aren't working right, that's going to be the end of the world. But my main point is you want to track everything that correlates with the purchase so that you have the best results possible, of which anything that doesn't really correlate with purchases directly, you have in secondary, but then provides Google extra data to use to optimize your ads with. That's where the opportunity is. Flamin, good evening, sir. They have added an AI button to add to shopping now. Have you seen this? What do you think? I haven't seen it yet. I would appreciate a screenshot if you can. I think maybe I won't be able to get to it on this stream, but if you could go into our Discord or in one of the comments on one of my videos, drop it and say, "Hey, I would definitely comment on it," and I would greatly appreciate that. Lisa, I have a supplier for jewelry and we worked for years since he's been able to source almost anything I want to crack the search ads campaigns. What would you recommend testing? Collections? I have 2 different jewelry clients currently too, by the way. And ultimately, for what we found works the best is the collections, promoting collections. Ultimately, you can also do things like, market by designer, a market by carat weight. So like 1 carat engagement rings, 2 carat engagement rings, driving people to dedicated search results pages. Ultimately, this is no different. And the golden rule applies to this. That is, the longer tail keywords you target, the higher the conversion rates, the higher the ROI. If you target engagement rings as a keyword, that's not going to work well. If you target 1 carat clear diamond engagement rings, then it's going to convert very well. It takes extra work to do that. And so there's going to be a level to it in which you break through profitability and then you win. So what I usually do with this type of client is that we go long tail and then we just roll out campaign after campaign after campaign, targeting different collections. Lisa, would problem solving work for jewelry and search ads? So I can't tell you too much because again, we're in this space, but ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a lot of confusion in this space, of course. What's good? Are diamonds as good as natural diamonds? What's the difference? Moissanite, what's this? How is this different? Um, you know, what the difference between 24 karat gold and 18 and 14 and the durability aspect. And there's a lot to know as a buyer that you have to get familiar with to make a good informed decision. So with that said, a quiz landing page that would say, if you're in market for a gold chain, find out what gold chain best fits your needs and your budget. That would actually be quite useful to the user. We don't do it in this space, but we do that kind of thing a lot in other spaces. Whether you're talking about mental health centers, whether you're talking about supplements, so on and so forth. So that is a profitable avenue. That said, I usually don't do that until last, where I can't scale the buying searches anymore. And in jewelry, it's going to be a long ass time before you reach saturation there because there's so many searches. Lisa, how do you market research for YouTube ads to find what the competitors are doing and get better ideas? So I've got a video about how to view your competitors' YouTube ads on my channel. So basically what you do is you get on a fresh device and you start searching on Google the type of products that you sell, and then you also watch videos related to products that you sell, and then you wait for the ads to propagate. Nowadays, since I made that video, I would definitely do this with a bot. I'd use Claude to create a custom browsing bot that would do this. And so that I could get all the ads, and then the ads would be collected in a Google Sheet somewhere. And every single ad that targets me being an now in-market buyer for what I sell is now in a file, and I could just browse the file. In fact, this is actually a great idea for a tool that I should build, like a competitor ad scraping tool that would be able to find all your competitors' YouTube ads. Now, you can also, you should also obviously check out the ad library. Maybe there's some video ads there that you'll find and so forth there, but probably not. YouTube ads typically aren't going to be there, by the way. But that's the primary method for that. Lisa, thoughts on using AI for video ads? Have seen quite a few stores being successful doing this. So this goes back to the whole effort versus expectations thing, right? I'll admit I've used AI for a lot of video ads, and it just depends on your situation, whether that will work or not. Sometimes it will work and you're forced to do it. Sometimes it won't work. Generally speaking, people don't trust AI. If you're doing AI, it says to the consumer, you're broke and or you don't give a rat's ass about how you do your advertising, so why should I care your product or service is any good? And I shouldn't assume that it's going to be any different. That is, you're cheap and you're broke and you're going to make the product cheap and shitty. So perception is key, just like as is if you're going to get an email, you're going to think this person's a scammer versus if you got a physical letter in the mail, you're going to think this person's a little bit more serious. The difference between using AI versus actual footage is the same kind of idea and concept. These things are not treated equally. So maybe it will work, maybe it won't. Generally speaking, like if you're trying to do a demonstration of a product that's used on a boat, you can't do a video production without spending 30 grand. And in the case, your hands are tied. But if you can do a physical product demonstration and do this relatively cheaply, don't half-ass it with AI. There's no excuse for that. And it's going to work much better, almost surely, shooting it for real, not instant gratification with AI, because that's why a lot of people use AI because of the instant gratification factor. Or at the very least, if you try AI and it doesn't work, don't just assume it doesn't work. Assume that you need to invest more into getting trust from the user by having real footage. So it can be, depending on what niche you're in, good enough. Typically, if it is going to make money with AI, you'll make even more with real physical footage because people trust it more. Justin, I had a colonoscopy. It's prevention. If they find any growth, they cut it out early, many years before it turns into cancer and spreads. So, I was thinking of a colonic before. Okay, sorry if I I don't know what I was thinking, how I confused those two. Colonoscopy. Yeah, I mean, a check, particularly when you're older, might not be a bad idea, but I never liked checks and like even health insurance really as much as it's like a crutch for your health. People are going to lean on that for a sense of security when they're really not treating their body properly in the first place. Their health is they're not maximizing their health due to diet and exercise and stress and sleep. You got to get all that stuff in line first and then add that stuff later on. Otherwise, it's a cope basically. So, not to say if you do all that stuff you can't have a problem, but the chances of having a problem at that point in time is like less than 1% in reality. So, it's really not to mention what I've heard a lot of, doctors will do if you get a cancer screening is they'll find just like dentists, right? They'll be like, "Oh, you got a cavity." Really you don't. They just want to operate on you. So, how do you really know that you do or you don't in reality? Can you look at the x-ray and verify what they're saying? So, I mean, obviously if it's obvious, it's obvious and it could save your life, but a lot of these problems are manufactured and we're all our own worst enemy. JZA, am I still your competition if I'm a single state apostille? Tell your client I can be as expedited Massachusetts courier. So it's we're doing yes you are. Um Respectively, I will bring it up. I don't know if anything will come of it. It's not my decision. Carousel, when can we expect the DGen video to drop? It's given me I don't know what that supposed to represent exactly, but yeah, I mean anytime, anytime, anytime. Carousel, you don't use VidTio for spying? Oh, I didn't even know about this product. VidTio. VidTio. Nice, nice. Your competitors are swiping YouTube ad angles you can't see. Very cool. Definitely checking this out later. Very nice. I'm glad some problem. So somebody obviously did create a bot and they've already solved this problem. So I don't need to solve it. And it's going to be useful. So there you go. There you go, Lisa. VidTow. That's what you want. Probably, presumably. Thank you for sharing, Carousel. Competitor ad scraping tools would be awesome. The problem with scraping tools, by the way, I've seen these come and go over the years, is somebody will get successful, they'll do it right, and then they'll get a cease and desist letter from the ad platform or the platform in general. They'll say, take your website down. We're going to sue the shit right out of you into oblivion. And then they just fold right away. So realistically, if a company gets too big, right away they're a target and then you're done. So it's just like, like you could have a website that aggregates content from Craigslist to make, like a real estate site that just has Craigslist listings. But Craigslist, once you become successful, it's going to hit you. So they don't want you to use their content in any way to make money off of it, whether it helps users or not, or whether it's malicious or not. What if it's good AI? James, so I'm not trying to shit on AI at all here. And in fact, it would look stupid and copy, I'm doing it on purpose. But just think about it from the perspective of you, or what the general sentiment out there is. Go and you ask, what do people like seeing AI ads? I don't know why people, for whatever reason, that personally they'll hate something. And they know people hate something, but once they're on the other side of the coin, they have to make a sale on something. Suddenly that thing becomes perfectly fine. And I deserve to be able to do it. No, nothing's changed. You got to understand that people hate AI at this stage. It's being overdone, overused. It's not trusted as a whole. So it can be good AI, but it's still going to be probably noticeable, at least for now, that it's AI. And just keep that in mind. So it can be profitable and maybe good enough. But usually the real shot by a real video camera, It's typically going to convert better. AI is great. A lot of times, the good AI, as you say, to validate an idea. And then once you got it validated, go and invest into a properly shot video. That we've done many times. Sometimes even the physical shot version doesn't even work as good as the AI, weirdly enough. So there's no absolutes with this stuff. That's what I like about advertising. It's always changing, it's adapting. People's tastes change. I just shit on AI mostly here because people are doing it. Let's just be frank. They're doing it because it's easy. And they try to say, well, if AI doesn't work, it doesn't work. No, a lot of times it's just AI won't work. And it's going to cheapen your brand. If you are an established brand, it's going to make your brand look cheap. And so if you're an affiliate, who gives a shit? But if you got a trusted, established brand, just like, hey, I mean, how would you guys like it if instead of these videos that I do on this channel, I have an AI background and I did all of it in AI and I just typed in a script. And instead of, yeah, it's the same information, but it's all done with an AI. You guys going to be a little bit pissed? Probably. And if not you personally, a bunch of people would, which is why I don't do it. Have you gotten your oil checked? So I think you mean what I think you mean, and no, I haven't. Justin, good point. Well, I'm not here to tell you what to do, what not to do. Everything I say to do, there's always going to be an exception. All I'm trying to do is give you some general advice so you don't have to end up trying everything to find out everything works. You always got to try stuff, but if I say something's 90% not going to work, why would you try it the way that is likely not to work first, at the very least? That's all I'm trying to do here, guys, is give you general guidance based upon what I see works most of the time, because there's never absolutes with this. Carousel, Video Ad Vault by TubeShift is also good. Cool. Thank you also for another tip there. What's going on, buddy? How is it going over there? Hope your business is still booming. Oh, you can access your ad accounts now. Great. It's still funny to this day. The ad agencies, you could run an ad agency by holding your clients' ad accounts hostage. In the end of the day, even if it works, you're going to want to own your own ad accounts, because if you ever go to sell your company and your ad account agency has your ad accounts, they have you buy. Your balls are more than in a vice. They're in a vice with the cherry bomb strapped to it, and you're done. And once they know you're gonna try to sell the company and they have your ad account, you're screwed. So don't put yourself in that position. Caruso, what if you made AI ads that don't look like AI ads? Well, that's always the holy grail, right? How do you make it not look like AI? And AI's gotten so good, and you can get so good at doing them, then you could be good. But the problem is, I mean, you just look at the YouTube content. People try all day long to make AI content not look like AI, but people still know it's AI, even if it doesn't look like AI. So if you can do this, great. It's just very hard to pull off. Okay, so we're at the top of the hour here. I'm not going to be able to get through any more of these questions because I have another obligation here. I have a client meeting I have to do. So unfortunately, guys, I can't go through anymore. And you should save your questions for next time. I do appreciate all the questions you gave me here. Gave me some good ones. You had me chuckling. We had some good recommendations. Thank you, Caruso, again, for the great recommendations on the YouTube scraper tool. Competitive analysis. Didn't know that existed yet. I learned something as well. So you've got the expert to learn. I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see you on the next one. See you next Monday for any remaining questions you have. Thank you very much for coming as usual. See you later.